What country has the worst political stability right now? Haiti. There's no government left. It's total anarchy presided over by a few super-rich exploiters who want nothing to change. It's a complete failed state. It blows my mind that you can take a cruise there from Miami. My parents went on a cruise there, and while the ships dock on that half of the island of Hispaniola, it's more of a visit to Haiti than Haiti. The port they stopped at is in Labadie and is technically part of the country, but it's a private area that is leased and managed by the cruise line, is separated by high fences and razor wire and is guarded by private security. Outside of the people who work there, no Haitians are allowed to enter that resort area. It's a reverse prison basically. Feels gross being there. Can you imagine the bribes that are involved with maintaining security there? I am sure Royal Caribbean leases it from a legit company greasing an unknown number of palms. I can't imagine what Royal is thinking having a place there on the razor's edge of anarchy. It is all fine and dandy until it isn't, and there are 2,000 passengers that would need to be evacuated. I thought about the evacuation part. If there is a real emergency and you can't take the boat back, you are fucked. Even with the cruise line's help. The U.S. Navy would get there pretty quick, I imagine. As measured in days, not hours. In the meantime, hundreds of taxpayers are hauled off into the jungle and held for ransom. Royal's stock price goes to zero. They'd have the military and military planes/helicopters there to evacuate within hours. It would not take a matter of days. That is lunacy. Haiti is a 1-hour flight from major Florida military bases. There is literally no government left. Like, for real, nobody is in charge. Yes, it kinda started with their earthquake and quickly spiraled out of control. Their prime minister was assassinated in 2021, they've had numerous cancelled elections which has left no one holding office, with the last 10 officials leaving office last year. Even down to the local level, they lack any form of government. They are at this point in anarchy. It was already bad before the earthquake, but it made things so much worse, especially because of how it destroyed the actual government structure. Legislature does not meet. Courts are basically non-functional. But they do have some banking, so commerce continues. And they still have prisons, which are very crowded despite the lack of due process. Myanmar, the junta keeps losing ground to the various ethnic militias. Ethiopia, whichever ethnic group is in government faces revolts from those that aren't. Sudan, the military and paramilitary are at war. Somalia, it's Somalia, they've been a byword for failed state for decades now. Haiti has to be in the discussion as well. It's beyond unstable, they basically have no politics. Haiti is incredibly difficult to describe, because essentially, it's a war, but there's no sides and no competing ideologies. Just crime, gang wars, and rape that have progressed until war levels of violence and societal collapse. It also makes it an incredibly difficult case in international politics. There are calls from inside Haiti for an intervention, but against what exactly? An international intervention against crime? What are the intervention force supposed to do? Start shooting at all men? The US doesn't want to touch it because they're afraid of bad optics, war on terror, and isolationist voters, America first. The rest of the region doesn't care and have their own problems, many consider it a lost cause. The US cares about Russia and the Middle East, China are focused on Taiwan and their own economy, and Europe are busy with Ukraine and migration issues. Haiti is farthest down the list for almost the entire world. Which is a shame, because currently, it's so bad that it needs to be discussed either way. I see one possible solution personally, and that's an intervention by a multinational PMC, private military company, mercenaries. That entails a whole host of problems on its own, but in Haiti's case it honestly doesn't matter for the simple reason that it can't get worse. Just put them on the street to stop kids from getting raped to death and deal with whatever comes up later. It would also provide the international community with some much-needed data on how PMCs really function outside of the Kevin Spacey Call of Duty. Are they as shady and dystopic as painted, or could they be a viable option when everyday people need security and everything else has failed? Source: political scientist with interest in Haiti. Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia. Eastern Africa is a geopolitical tinderbox right now. Ethiopia is currently filling a hydroelectric reservoir on the Nile that threatens water access for Sudan and, more importantly, Egypt downstream, against Egypt's militarily backed wishes. The rains have been kind so far, but we're one drought year away from igniting that conflict. Ethiopia, of course, has the civil war, which may still eclipse the Ukraine war as the deadliest conflict in the 21st century, though the stats in Ethiopia are hard to rely on. Ethiopia is also clamoring for sea access, and they're trying to make a deal with the breakaway government of Somaliland, who de facto control the northern half of Somalia, but aren't an official recognized government. So in the eyes of the official Somali government, this basically amounts to stealing the land, though they can't really do much about it. Ethiopia's other option is to invade Eritrea, and they've been murmuring and grunting in that direction of late. Of course, Egypt is busy with its own thing right now right across the Red Sea. They're by far the hardest hit country by the Houthi blockade, with a massive chunk of their revenue coming from the Suez Canal. They have a massive potential refugee crisis on their hands with Gaza. And all this is on top of their own internal strife, rebel groups and factions and whatnot. The whole region sits on a knife's edge. I don't think it's the worst, but Myanmar has been under military rule. Myanmar has been under military rule for much of its post-colonial existence. Anyone more learned on the situation can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's my understanding that when the junta gave up power after elections in 2010, they merely handed it to a staunchly pro-military party headed by a former general, and when that party lost the elections in 2015, the military retained its massive influence on the political and economic goings-on in the country, and the civilian government had little to no control over or oversight of the military. It was almost as if the junta never really gave up power in the first place. They didn't hand over the country to a pro-military group. Instead, they required the junta to have a significant amount of seats in the government. The military had control all along, but they were just sitting back for a bit. I'm going to say the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but I'm not sure it qualifies as such. A few people have mentioned Haiti being very unstable and basically anarchy, but DRC is kind of at the point where Haiti will end up, without the major organized crime that Haiti has. The reason I'm not sure it qualifies is that it is quite stable in the sense that the central government barely holds any real power in most of the country and has been stable in that way of things for quite a while now. The country has regressed to an almost purely agrarian and informal industry economy, with political power mostly being held by local governments and services being non-existent in most places. The government has so little power that many of the major militant players in Africa are either based in, or have previously been based in the DRC. They can just move freely through this country because there is just no real central power. Unlike a lot of the other countries mentioned, such as Somalia, Ethiopia and Sudan, the DRC isn't really in any major civil war with distinct sides, which is good on the one hand since war is bad, but on the other hand it means there is no movement on the horizon looking to change the DRC's situation. The entire country is in a weird limbo of having a huge power vacuum with nobody willing to fill it. I know limbo is a typo, but still cracked me up because of the contrast. Weirdest limo ever. 0 out of 5 stars. Should have just taken an Uber. Please like and subscribe for more daily content. I publish new videos daily, otherwise please feel free to check out another video. Thanks for watching.